Alabama star quarterback Jalen Milroe is the most toolsy quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft, but he's going to need an offense that allows him to think less and play and react more. We'll talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I am an offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report, and that's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everyday. We have a fun show building the scheme for Jalen Milroe. We did that last week for Jackson Dart. Now we're doing it for Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe. Malachi Starks or Andrew Makuba, this or that. And then we're going to talk about underrated edge rushers and prospects in the 2025 NFL draft. But before that, guys, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Keith, your boy, Jalen Milroe, man, you've been one of the guys that you've talked about him in a positive light for some time, pretty much for the most part, the entire draft season. When you think about him going into the NFL, right, he came into the combine, I believe he was, 6'2", 220 pounds, I'm pulling it up real quick. No, he didn't run the 40. He did tell teams, if I ran, I would run 4.3. I believe him. I will 100% believe him, like that he would hit 4.3 from what he does on tape. 6'2", 217. Hands went from like 8 5/8 or something like that at the Senior Bowl to 9 3/8. I don't really know how that happens, but here we are, right? He's got over 9-inch hands. When you think about if you're the offensive coordinator and you get the call, hey, you're in the war room, we're taking Jalen Milroe. What offense, what scheme are you building around him to ensure that he is successful early in his career?
Yeah, I simply would think if I could get my hands on Greg Roman, right, I would love to do that. And just what he's been able to do with dual threat quarterbacks. And you think about the guys in the past, right? You think about the guys that have had success, right? And true runners, right? You think about Cam Newton, you think about Lamar Jackson, you think about Jalen Hurts, right? You think about those guys. I would place him in a similar situation. Like, why not utilize one of his best assets, his legs, right? And for a very long time, we were told as an NFL community that you can't win with dual threat guys, right? And to be completely honest, we've seen that notion kind of be dispelled, right? Like, you can win with dual threat guys if you let them do what they do best. And at the end of the day, this is what two things, and this is why I guess it appears that I'm going against the grain in some capacity, is that everybody, I guess, is out on Jalen Milroe, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying everybody was also out on Jalen Hurts. Everything that people said about Jalen Hurts, they said about Jalen Milroe. I mean, everything people saying about Jalen Milroe, they said about Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl champion now. So you have to take that into account and in some capacity. And then I also present, and because I tweeted this out a couple last week, right? I was like, as a draft community, we have to sit there and think, hey, what makes us comfortable with drafting Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson, Zach Wilson, those guys, and then we're totally uncomfortable and out on drafting Jalen Milroe? And I know the answer is like, oh, well, some of it is sample size, right? We've seen more of Jalen Milroe. So if you're taking an NFL franchise quarterback, you rather go with the thing that you don't know about, like that. I think that's the part that we have to kind of flesh out and reason. And even NFL quarterbacks that have been successful in the NFL, usually most of them have played a lot of football in college. So that's why I look at it in different things. But I definitely think a scheme like Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, Jalen Hurts, what Shane Steichen was doing with Anthony Richardson, letting them run a football, something like that.
Okay, no, and I'm with it. I think with him, that's kind of where I would do it too. I want to keep him. Of course, in camp, I'm going to get him under center, and I'm going to flush out this foot. He has some of the worst footwork in the pocket, but they don't run a lot of under center stuff at Bama. So I want to get him under center because I want to get that natural, that kind of traditional under center run game going, so I could use him on some of the bootlegs and things like that. If I can get that footwork down to where he can feel comfortable, but I'm probably more than likely the base of it is going to be in shotgun. like shotguns, pistol, because I know he's more comfortable there. Like we talked about this at the Senior Bowl. Instead of just letting him and Jackson Dart just be what they are and run shotgun stuff, the Cleveland Browns staff that was there was like, no, let's spend 20 minutes on footwork out of from under. No, this is not the place for that. Read the room, brother. This is not the place. So for me, it's like I want to get him in camp and work on that. But if it's a preseason game, we're starting him out. We're trying to see if he's ready to go. I'm putting him in shotgun. I'm going to give him quick game. I want to give him quick game, quick hitches, things like that. Get the ball out quickly. But I went back to that Georgia game. I was watching, I think, Dan Jackson, the safety from Georgia. I wanted to get eyes on him. I had to do his report over at Bleach Report. And I was kind of watching him, and I was watching him, and I kept going back to Milroe. And it was just like the quickness and with Milroe, I want to simplify everything for him to where the defense, I'm going to force you out of your disguise. I'm going to force you out of that pre-snap disguise shell with motion, shifting, different things of that nature. So my quarterback knows, all right, it's man to man. These safeties are too high, different things of that nature. I want to give him as many answers to the test as possible early. Because in that game, when he saw it and they stayed in what he saw, he ripped it. It was confident throws over the middle. I want to get some dagger concepts, things of that nature where he has the arm talent to drive the ball in the middle of the field between the numbers. The thing with him is lower body, the footwork. You watch the Tennessee game, horrible footwork. You see the game against Vanderbilt, bad decision making, staying in the pocket, and the clock doesn't go off for him where you're so explosive. You should feel the rush more. And I think that's like we talked about this a couple of times when you bring up why people are lower on them. When you give us to the Jalen Hurts point, Jalen Hurts, he improved after that year where Tua started the second half of that championship game and Tua won it. He came back and he worked with the QB coach. Jalen Hurts just got better after that year, right? Went to Oklahoma, was a Heisman. I think he was a Heisman candidate that year. Of course, he met y'all in the playoffs. Didn't go well, but he met y'all in the playoffs, right?
Yep.
CeeDee Lamb, they got there. I think we saw that improvement with him. We watched regression with Jalen Milroe, and I think that's where people are worried. Like, yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. Like we saw you looked good in 2023. We're like, okay, 2024, we're like, man, we're expecting a leap. And when you don't meet that expectation, and now it's not the leap, we see you kind of jump back and you regress that, especially as a passer, accuracy, like the mechanical stuff, this stuff that he's got to clean up. But I would definitely want to get him in shotgun, quick game, get the run game going. Like you said, do some of the stuff that we see with Jalen, some of the stuff we see with Jalen Hurts, right? The QB power game, QB counter, use that as kind of the help with the I want a traditional run game to where the running back can take a lot of those hits and I can preserve his body. But at the same time, I want him to be a threat. I want that backside defensive end to always wonder, is Jalen Milroe going to pull this ball?
Run the ball. Yeah.
Crash down this lane and he pulls it, we're in trouble. Like, because he does have 4.4, 4.3 speed. And we saw that all against the Georgia defense. He made everybody look slow. Even the fastest guys on their team look slow. So it's like, I want him to always be a factor in the run game, QB zone read, some QB counter stuff, power on the perimeter. Use that type of stuff to really settle him into games as well. It's just difficult because even with I watched the Carolina with Cam Newton, all those hits, they add up. And it's like, you don't want to expose your quarterback too much because then that's your guy. That's the key to the franchise. If he doesn't stay healthy, you're screwed.
Yeah, I totally get that and understand that. I guess if you go back to the Eagles have won 2 Super Bowls in the past 5 to 6 years, something like that. They won one with Nick Foles, right?
Nick Foles.
and then they transitioned away from Carson Wentz because that was their guy, right? The pocket passer. And then they went and got Jalen Hurts and won another Super Bowl. I guess my context of it just with Jalen Hurts is that if we're talking about the scheme, right, and a scheme for Jalen Milroe, then why are we not projecting, hey, this guy could fit well in this situation, right? I think in the draft community, everybody is out on him. And like I said, I just can't understand Trey Lance. I don't even think he played the year before he came out, right?
He
like
played
you said,
one game. I was via totally against that crap. I was like, do not enter this draft because that was COVID. They played one game. He was trying to do too much and showcase who he. No, go back to school, bro. Like, don't. You had 1 year of 1 year of play, and then you got the whole year stripped away from you due to COVID. He to me had no business coming out. To your point, with the Eagles what the Eagles have built is very hard to replicate though, and I think that's where. Albeit Hurts is playing, yeah, they got an elite offensive line. You get Saquon, their defense is stout. They got the best O-line coach in the game. Great, like it's hard. It's very hard to do what they were able to do.
What DP? This the NFL Draft podcast, like Locked On NFL Draft well, right? Like Jalen Carter falling to them. Jordan Davis. I have a question. The guys that they picked, after they picked them, did we not say they are going to be good football players?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not. 100%. So my point is that if you draft well, it's not that difficult to replicate. Just draft well, right? Like just go in there and draft.
That's easier said than done with these NFL teams.
But DP, as much as I want to continue this Jalen Milroe conversation, I want to turn over to the next segment, right? Let's do this, man. Let's go. Malachi Starks versus Andrew McCool, and had a conversation. Which safety are we going to take? Let's talk about that coming up next.
Ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Okay, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com by using our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get half off, 50% off of your first year. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories to even who you believe will be cutting down the nets when it's all said and done. Stay in the action with the tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on. Plus, the FanDuel app is simple, super easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. How can you get on a deal like this? Just visit FanDuel.com today and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, visit FanDuel.com today to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. This or that, Keith. We kind of foreshadowed this. I feel like 2 weeks ago when you brought it up during one of the pods, and I felt like we need to circle back. We need to go ahead and do a loop and come back to this conversation. Malachi, so you're talking about safeties, Keith, and they're not viewed as a premier position anymore. You know what I mean? When we had Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu, we were in love with the safety position. When we had, a lot of the top tier guys over the history of the NFL, but now they're kind of devalued. And when you look at Malachi Starks, as great as he is, the question is, will he go round one? Is he a round one lock? We watched Brian Branch fall to the second round. Bad decisions were made because of positional value, Keith. Malachi Starks 6'1", 197, ran a 4.5 with a 1.5, 110 yard split. And of course, the guy that, almost became a forgotten guy until you really looked at the playoffs and watched Texas defense, Andrew McCool, 5'11", 186, 30-inch on the arm, 4.45 in the 40 with a 1.5, 310 yard split. Keith, both of these guys are instinctive football players, high IQ, can take the ball away, can run trap coverages in disguise. Both of them, we saw it in 2024, more of Malachi Starks' ability to cover out of the nickel, where if you watch Clemson since Andrew McCool got there, he was always a hybrid. He always played nickel, deep safety. He did multiple things and wore multiple hats. The question is, Keith, should a team say, you know what, we got to need that safety? Let's go ahead round 1, take Malachi Starks, or maybe wait till round 3 and get an Andrew Makuba.
Yeah, so I would go this or that, right? Starks round 1 or Makuba round 3. I'm going Makuba round 3, and it's not because of the devaluation. Like I told you, I take devaluation scales and I throw them out the window. Like there are many different ways. Like this is the thing, DP, that if you're in high school, you're trying to win high school games, get college level football players, right? Guys that could play in college. Mm-hmm. If you're in college and you're trying to win football games, get guys that are going to play in the NFL. If you're in NFL, you're trying to win a Super Bowl, get Pro Bowlers and all pros. That is the scale at the end of the day, DP.
Seems simple. Seems very simple.
Keep it simple. Acquire as many Pro Bowls and all pros as you can. So the reason I say round 3 Andrew Makuba is not because of the valuation scale. It's because I believe that that's really good value for a guy that I think that they're closer as far as what their top game is. I think that they're closer in evaluation than what's led on to be completely honest. And if I could get other positions and like you could lock me in that I'm getting Andrew Makuba in the 3rd round, then yeah, I'm addressing other positions because I think that is well worth it because I view Andrew Makuba in that light.
No, and I'm with you on that. And I think this is tough. Even though they have both similar versatility, I feel like Starks is more of the free safety over the top, while Makuba can play over the top, and like especially with the 2 high shells we're seeing now, he can live back there. But also I think and this is just me personally, from a man coverage nickels position, I'm taking Makuba all day over Starks. I think Makuba is like that good to not just lock up against slot receivers, but we watched him at 5'11" lock up with a 6'6", 6'7" Johnny Wilson, a 6'4" Keon Coleman, and defend those guys well in 2023 when he was at Clemson. He can cover bigger body types, smaller body types, athletic, twitchy guys. And of course, he can be that roamer, that kind of that cover 3, just kind of middle of the field, take the ball away. Robert, playing Robert technique as well. This is a very difficult situation because I really like both of these dudes, but I'm gonna go Starks in round 1. Mm-hmm. I think for me, when I look at Starks, the ball production, the ball skills, the ability to where I can do more in the back end coverage wise, where I can show too high, reverse over into him as a free safety, go cover 1. And his range, even though he ran a 4.5, I mean, we watch him on tape, he covers ground. Like and it's not just, and I want to say this because we've talked about the 40 time. Play speed over testing speed. And what goes into play speed is the mental part of the game. Do you see it quickly? Do you process information? So whatever quick twitch fibers you have in your body they can operate freely. And that's why we've been doing the building a scheme for quarterbacks topic. With these 2 quarterbacks, we're getting the Shador and Cam and Tyler Shuck and those guys too. But that's a big thing. Is like, okay, how can I get you to be just play fast and not react? I look at Malachi Starks, and truthfully, like this guy plays faster than most safeties. Like when they're in the back end, his ability to identify, to cut off and cut access to the deep part of the field is top tier. And I think that's what, even though he can play in the nickel, that's where I want him most because he can right a lot of wrongs. And if you have I think the Colts at 14 is a spot that people are looking at. Well, right now, I mean, might be Jahad Campbell because they might need to. They're looking at adding another linebacker too because they got to change that linebacker room up. But if they were to take him at 14, like I know they just got in Cam Bynum and different things like that. But if that was a team that for a while before the Cam Bynum signing from Minnesota, yeah, like with your secondary, you need somebody that can come in and kind of be on the top and cover these guys' backs because they don't really like at least with the scheme they had last year. They weren't good in the cornerback room. So that's what you look for. Maybe you look at Cincinnati. I think it was where was Cincinnati? Like 17, somewhere in there. They lost Jesse Bates. Excuse me, lost Jesse Bates. They haven't really replaced him well. I forget the young man out of Michigan they drafted a couple years ago. He hasn't played. Ideally, I think he even transferred down to, they switched his position to corner or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I think there's a couple teams in the round one that should be on the lookout. The team that I think that we all should be paying attention to is the Baltimore Ravens. Like this is what they do. You let him slip down the board and add a Malachi to a Kyle Hamilton with Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey. I think they still have Marcus Williams, who should be on like the last year of this deal. They can get out of that deal. They wanted to replace him. But I still think he should be a first round player. And I would take him, in this situation, this or that. I'd rather go with Malachi Starks simply because of in this pass happy league, I need somebody that can come in over the top and make quarterbacks rethink that deep ball, make quarterbacks rethink that smash concept and throw into that 7 route. That's where I lean to. I love Andrew Mukuba. That's my guy too. But if in this or that, I'm gonna go Malachi Starks round 1.
Well, DP, this is a situation we both can't be right? I took Andrew Mukuba round 3. You took Malachi round 1. We will see how that plays out. But DP, I'm gonna say this: edge rushers. We talked about the top of the class. Now it's time to get into those guys that are underrated prospects that you want to fill your team out with. Let's get into this conversation. Underrated edge rushers coming up next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Underrated edge prospects to watch in the 2025 NFL Draft. Keith, talk to me. We talked about, the Abdul Carters, the Mike Green, Shamar Stewarts, Donovan Ezeroku. Who's an underrated edge prospect that people aren't talking about enough?
Yeah, I don't have to go very far, DP, because I'm in Baton Rouge. So I'm going to the LSU Bengal Tigers, man. I'm going with Braden Swinson. This is a guy that if you listen to the show, for a few months now, I brought him up, but just a guy that still, I don't even think he got a Senior Bowl invite. I think he may have went to the Shrine, but I just think he's flying under the radar as just a naturally gifted edge rusher with some upside, right? And you're talking about teams, and you're talking about potentially grabbing him in the 3rd round, maybe the 4th, right? I think he has upside to be a double-digit sack guy. Now, where would I place him? Maybe a 7 or 8 sack guy, but a true edge rusher. And I kind of, this is where DP and the reason I bought the going back to the Jalen Milroe versus Anthony Richardson conversation, right? Is usually in what I try to highlight is that sometimes it's not even about play on the field. It's media coverage and how we choose to spin whether we like a prospect or not, right? Because the name I'm about to invoke, Isaiah Foskey, right? And everybody loved Isaiah Foskey coming out of Notre Dame. And obviously we watched the film and we said, hey, there are some things that Isaiah needs to work on. But like media was almost hell-bent on this guy's going to be a top 75 prospect. I look at him versus Braden Swinson, and I think Braden Swinson has similar, if not better talent, right? Just as far as natural gifts as an edge rusher. So just kind of comparing and contrasting, I think this is where kind of get caught up in because it's narratives that's driven, that's surrounding these prospects when just simply cutting the tape on and saying, hey, what is this guy's path to success and removing if we're comfortable with taking him that early versus what is his talent. I look at Braden Swinson. I like Braden Swinson as a natural skilled edge rusher. That's definitely under the radar.
Yeah, 6'4", 255, 33 and 3/8 on the arm. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll work. That'll play. You have those type of measurements and everything. And I'm watching them like I'm with you, Keith. If the media coverage, the draft community in general, nobody's talking about him, and it's just like this is a guy I could see. I don't know where he's going to be drafted because, like I said, the media coverage has been so low. You don't know if he's hot or cold with teams because no insiders talked about him, stuff like that. But if this guy comes off the board in round 3 back in the day 2, like he's got true starter upside and impact starter upside as an edge rusher. When you look at his body type, his get off, his ability to work the edges. Like I like him. You know what I mean? Keith, I'm gonna go to Minnesota, man. And this is a guy, I believe he was at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, kind of caught my eye there, and then kind of watching his tape. I see some stuff there. I see a path. And this Minnesota edge rusher, Ja Joyner, 6'4", 260, 34-inch arms. Ran a 4.6 flat at the at the combine and everything. And this is a guy that when I watched him, he's very relentless, has a high motor, but a guy that knows how to use that arm length, that wingspan to his advantage to win reps. And I think he's got good hand usage, knows how to knock and dislodge hands and not allow guys to latch in and run them around the arc and different things like that. But also, like we talked about last week, just retracing the steps. If he gets too far upfield, he'll counter with a spin back inside and get back to the quarterback. He is effective in speed to power. I'm be honest, I do think even at 262, I think this is a guy that could be a base defensive end. I probably would look at potentially adding a little bit more weight to him, right? Adding a little bit more weight, getting up to 270, 273, somewhere in there. You don't want to get him too heavy and sacrifice his get off the ball. But I think Ja Joyner could be a base defensive end, helping the run game. He's a lane exchanger. So talking about the twists and stunts, looping around. He does a good job too, especially in the run game, cross facing. You know what I mean? If you got him on the strong side, you got a tight end, a tackle. He does a good job. That first step is vertical, cross face. Now he's inside the gap. Think about all the split flow action that we see in the NFL with the split zone stuff and everything like that, or just with pulling guards. He does a good job kind of meeting them at the hole and clogging that lane. That's the worst thing a running back wants to see is I got a puller. Oh, he got stonewalled. Yeah, there's nowhere for me to go now. Like that, it's a headache for a running back. I think Ja Joyner could be one of those. And when we talking about off the beaten path, I think he's gonna be a day 3 guy. You know what I mean? 4th, 5th round, somewhere in there. But I think he can come in and have an impact on the NFL defense.
DP, I agree with you on that. I like Ja too. I went back and watched some of the Senior Bowl film that was last week. I was looking at a couple offensive linemen and couldn't help but notice him. Another guy I'm gonna go with, UCLA edge rusher Femi Aladejeo, I believe that's how you pronounce it. But go check this guy out. This guy played middle linebacker, had the transition to edge rusher, and I just see a lot of upside there. DP, this was a high energy guy at the Senior Bowl. Just being out there, being on the sideline and stuff. Like you see, he was a great coach communicator. He was trying to ramp everybody up. He was excited to be out there. You get the feeling that he loves playing football. He's a high energy guy. So if you need energy inserted into your building, he's one of those type of football players, right? So I look at Femi and I see the upside with him. Quick first step, obviously the versatility that he played middle linebacker, right? Like if you run a multiple front defense, you can do some different things with him and align him in different places. But the upside is there because he's only played edge rusher for 1 year. I think they had an injury and they decided to move him down. The thing is, he looks like an edge rusher, right? Like he's long, he's athletic, he's has good athleticism overall. So I look at it and I say, this is another guy that maybe teams, and I think he's a guy that teams are probably going to be higher on than what's discussed in the draft community because of all of the intangibles that appear to be there also.
No, I like that. Yeah, I remember him at the Senior Bowl. He definitely, he was the vocal leader of the team. So, you talking about getting him into an NFL locker room, getting him into training camp, like fans should, whoever team he drafts him, fans are going to hear him. Like you're going to hear him probably before you see him because he's just that. He's going to be loud. He's going to be active. He's going to be everything you want, especially in the locker room guy, a culture builder of sorts. Really like he's not going to let you take reps off, like nothing. He's going to encourage his teammates, everything. And then when you look at the natural athleticism, the speed, the power, we have to always say that John Walker's a Tasmanian devil to me. And he has a lot of that energy too, because he does not stop. He works to the football as much as possible. No matter if you stop the first rush, he's got something else in his bag. He's trying to do everything he can. Keith, one last name I'll throw out is Ethan Downs out of Oklahoma, 6'4", 270. He had 31-inch arms. So he's not going to pass the arm threshold for some teams, but he's got good play strength. He knows how to, even though he doesn't have the 33s, 34s, he knows how to use leverage, and he knows how to leverage well. I think this is the guy that probably be best suited is that 5-6 technique, right there outside shade of the tackle as a 4-3 defensive end, where he can attack that outside shoulder in the run game, get his hands fitted, set the edge, be able to collapse down the line of scrimmage, flash his colors to the running back. I think he'll be a problem in the run game for tackles. You're talking about putting them on the strong side. Well, for tight ends, I'm sorry, for guys trying to. Most of the tight ends in the NFL, they don't block. And they don't block well, at least. So, like, in the run game, so he's a guy that can actually strike, especially in the wide zone stuff, can get upfield, strike, split the Red Sea, and be in the backfield. I think he's one of those guys, and he knows how to get into the backfield. 19 pressures on the season. Didn't convert many of them into sacks. I think he only had 3 sacks. But talking about having just a rotational edge rusher, and we've seen teams. We talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. They understand once their base of their team is set, it's okay. Let's get depth. Let's get those rotational guys to come in. A couple years ago, when people didn't really know much about Milton Williams, it took a little time, but now he just got a bag with the New England Patriots. It's all about having that depth, and when you can get these guys in the field, fresh legs late in games, it matters a lot.
Yo, with DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.